Welcome to Geological Shoptalk. In this podcast, we bring you roughly 20 to 25 minutes of practical clinical methods, perspectives, and advice that has its work boots on. Listen in for clinical gems that you can begin to investigate the next time that you walk into clinic. Additionally, visit the show notes page for supporting materials from this week's guest on Shoptalk. All right, friends, roll up your sleeves. Let's get to work. This episode of Shoptalk is brought to you by Lhasa OMS, your clinic's partner in wellness. Later in the show, listen for a special offer from Lhasa to help you with all the transitions your patients face. The information shared on this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. Always consult a qualified licensed healthcare professional before making any decisions about your health or treatment. The host and guests are not responsible for any actions taken based on the content of this podcast. Eran Evan, wanting dial Geological Shoptalk, my friend.
Thank you, Michael. Great to be here.
So happy to have you. So, hey, look, Shoptalk, this is a whole different thing than our usual gig. You know, usually we jump into a conversation, meander around, who knows where it goes. But Shoptalk, the idea is to do what we love to do, talk some shop, how we do things, how we make things work. Cold and flu season's coming up. So I wanted to sit down with you and talk about some formulas and differentiations. Why you? Well, look, you got this background in Jing Fang, you got this background in Huang, you got this great new book that you translated from Professor Liu Duzhou. It's fabulous, the work you did with Huang Huang. So when I was thinking about who we talked to about doing with Wygon, some external pathogens, like who comes to mind? Eran Evan comes to mind. So tell me what you're thinking. You know, when people come in, you know, we got all the theory and stuff, but from your actual experience, being in clinic, working with Dr. Huang, seeing patients, what kind of patterns do you usually see and how do you treat the stuff?
Awesome. Well, it's a great question. Very timely for where we're at right now. I mean, it's definitely amping up, at least in my clinic. Thank you for having me, Michael. I should start off everything by saying thank you. I'm excited to see where Shoptalk is going to go, and I'm excited to be here. And it's always fun to sit down and nerd out with you and just talk shop, literally.
Talk shop. Let's talk some shop.
Yeah, I mean, cold and flus typically in my practice, I can't speak for other people, but I think that most of the time, I mean, and I should also preface all this by saying that I do practice in a Jing Fang style. So I am going to talk about the Shaoyang and the 6 conformations. I mean, that is pretty much what directs my clinical practice. Of course, everybody practices differently. Everybody sees things differently. I'm not a Wenbing practitioner. I'm very, very much within the lineage of the Shaoyang and the Jingwei. So most of the things that I'm going to talk about today are going to be formulas either from that, lineage, from what I was taught by Dr. Huang, my teacher, or other teachers. So I should probably preface and say that we're going to talk about that. I'm not going to talk about Yin Chao San and Sang Zhu Yin and some of those other really popular formulas that may be great, but they come from the Wenbing tradition. So in Shaoyang we talk about stages, of course, the 6 conformations, and most of the time we talk about Taiyang pathologies being the common cold and common flu. But in my practice, I would say it's not very common to see people in a Taiyang stage. It's actually very uncommon. If they can come in within the first day or even, the first few hours of their cold, maybe, we would see them in a Taiyang state. But most of the time, I am seeing people that are already in a Shaoyang state, at least. I mean, once a patient starts having a sore throat, then they are in Shaoyang. So, I mean, they could be in a Taiyang Shaoyang, or they could be purely in a Shaoyang. But at the end of the day, our main objective with all patients is to safeguard their physiology and prevent further progression of the pathogen. I mean, that's so much of what we want to do, right? So, I mean, I can get right into formulas here. I mean, my standard formula here that I'm seeing in probably 80% of cases that are coming into my practice.
Yes, we're going to get into that in just a second. But I just want to comment for a moment. You rarely see people at that very, very early stage. You rarely see them at cold invasion, which would be kind of a Ma Huang thing.
Right.
Also sounds like you rarely see them at like a wind strike, like a Guager pattern. You're often seeing them. So I'm a little curious to know why. But the other thing I wanted to say is a key thing that you're looking at to differentiate Shaoyang is a sore throat.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned yin chow a few minutes ago. And
Mhm.
often people say, well, what do you use yin chow for? Sore throat. So this is a different way of looking at sore throat.
Absolutely. And from a six conformation perspective, a sore throat is almost exclusively in a Shaoyang. And so when we see a common cold patient that has a sore throat, we know there's already going to be an element in Shaoyang there, without a doubt. And I mean, you could, if you see them a little bit earlier, they might come in with a Guizhi kind of perspective here, Guizhi signs and symptoms. And but if they've also got a sore throat, maybe they've got the alternating cold and heat, so they've got the
Mm,
chills, they've got a little bit of a fever, not too high of a fever. The thing with the Shaoyang is because it's the lesser yang, there is not really a lot of yang within the Shaoyang, sorry. So they aren't going to mount very high fevers. So they might have mild fevers, some chills that are going to alternate. We might see some abdominal pain. And we're also going to see aversion to cold and the sore throat. We would look at potentially formulas like Chai Hu Gui Zitang, which we can talk about as well, but that's going to be a Taiyang formula with already a Shaoyang formula because essentially we're combining Shai Chai Hu Tang with Gui Zitang as well, right?
yeah. Okay. But it sounds like the majority of what you're seeing, they're already in the Shaoyang.
Most of the patients that I'm seeing in my clinic, and I mean, some clinics might be different in the sense that they might have slots open for patients. Most of the time, because my practice is very full, so people are usually waiting. I don't have that opportunity to see patients in that early stage. Patients will email me or call me. And I will do my best to get them in, but it's not always the case. A lot of the times when they're already coming in, they're coming in with, a Shaoyang presentation that may have already been going on for quite a while, actually. It's
Right.
not necessarily going to be just a few days in. They might come in and see me a few weeks after their initial invasion that started off as a Taiyang potentially, but now they are just sitting in a Shaoyang in a very kind of
Okay.
subchronic state
So
of
that makes
health there where they've
sense.
obviously got things going on.
Yeah, that makes sense why you would see that. Before we hear your favorite formulas for it, if you were seeing somebody at more of a Shanghan, right, damaged by cold, or more of a Guizi, Zhongfeng kind
Mhm.
of pattern, striking by wind, if you had the opportunity to see people earlier and they were showing up with those more Taiyang presentations, what are your go-tos for that?
Well, we're gonna want to differentiate as well how they're presenting. So I mean, I can just kind of give a very quick overview of what that would look like if that's okay.
Yeah.
Because we're going to be looking at the standard Taiyang formula. So if a patient came in and they had a definite aversion to cold and even averse to wind, they sweat easily, they had some nasal congestion, maybe a runny nose. And typically in a weaker patient, this is where we're going to use a guizotang, right? So this is a more of a wind strike presentation. Now, if that patient comes in and they're not sweating and they've got chills, they're a little bit stronger, they're feverish, they've also got nasal congestion, but they've also got sinusitis and rhinitis. So there's a lot of discomfort in the nose, there's a lot of congestion in the nose maybe some body pain, maybe occipital headaches, then we're going to be looking at typical Gugentang, right? And
Mm,
Gugentang, I know that in the Kampo tradition and especially in Japan is probably the number one most prescribed formula for common colds. I mean, they sell it in supermarkets and in markets there, so people will just take Gugentang right away. Very, very common. It's typically in a stronger constitution. It's not going to be in a very weak presentation where we'd see more of a Guizatang. And then very similar to that with the body pain, absolutely no sweating, a little bit more wheezing in a strong constitution. And typically I will ask them how their appetite is. And if they've got a good appetite, it's going to be a Ma Huang Tang. So, I mean, I do use Ma Huang Tang, but it's not typically for acute cold. So these are the kind of things we want to see. And then that can even progress to where we have similar to the Guizatang, we also have and if there's sweating and now there's wheezing and maybe even a cough that's triggered by cold environments, we're going to be looking at Xiaoqing Longtang. So we've got the external pathogen with also the internal water accumulation in the lungs as well.
okay. That's a really nice framework when you think about it, right? You got for people that are very strong and they're not sweating at all, they got serious body aches, there's your Ma Huang tongue. And on the more weak side, you got the Guizhi tongue. In the middle, you've got the Gugan tongue. I love Gugan tongue. I use that
Me
one
too.
like all the time. It kind of covers the bases because it also has
I agree.
Guizhi in it, also has Ma Huang in it traditionally.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It really does cover the bases. So, I mean, there's so much that a Guggenheim, and I mean, it makes sense that in, even in Japan, that it would be the most widely used formula because its indications are so vast, right? So, yeah, I mean, I love Guggenheim as well. First, for so much more than just acute problems, it's just a beautiful formula.
Yeah. Okay. But often people don't come into our office even if they could, because so often with the Western medicine community, they will tell you if you're not feeling well, stay the heck out of here. They don't want to see you.
Right.
So it makes sense that often we're going to see people, it's already progressed.
Right.
So dealing with Shaoyang issues.
Right. Yeah. So typically when they're coming in, and I should also say that as well because with the whole idea of staying at home and not exposing yourself, I mean, we saw a lot of this with COVID as well, and even this formula that I'm going to talk about now as well is a formula that I also use a lot for people that have had COVID, are sitting in this potentially long COVID situation, which is increasing in the clinic. And this formula is Chai Hu Guizhi Ganjiang Tang. So from line 147 of the Shanhan Lun, for those who don't know, I'll just kind of let you know what the ingredients are. It's Chai Hu, Guizhi Ganjiang, obviously, and then we've got the Gualo Gun or the Tianhua Fen. Muli, Huangqin, and Zhigancao. So a really, really beautifully formulated prescription from Zhang Zongjing. And this formula really, really, I mean, talk about covering your bases here. This is the most chronic Shaoyang state. So when you've got a chronic Shaoyang state, Chai Hu Guizhi Ganjiang Tang is the formula you're going to want to use. And it does have this full body antiviral response as well. So, these patients are going to come in and they're going to present with maybe some chills, maybe a mild fever. Again, their fever is not going to elevate. It's not going to get too high. It's never going to be a strong high fever. They're definitely going to have a sore throat. They may have swollen glands, complain about joint pain as well, even maybe dizziness. So there's going to be a lot of the Shaoyang kind of symptoms there. But you're also, because you've got the Guizi in there, you're also going to have maybe you're going to also have some aversion to cold. So there is an element of Taiyang that sits within the Chai Hu Guizi Ganjiang Tang as well, making it so valuable. And so that, I mean, this will be my standard, but of course I'm going to modify it. A lot of the modifications are going to be as per what Zhang Dongjing did in the original postscripts for the formula. So if a patient comes in and they fit the description, I'm just going to give them the Chai Hu Guizhi Ganjiang Tang, and usually for about a week. After a week, we're going to check in, see what's going on. If that patient is coughing, if there's a bit of a cough, then I will usually add Wu Weizi. And Wu Weizi Ganjiang is the standard yang confirmation modification that Zhang Zhongjing used when there was a cough. Uh,
That's an
if the fever,
interesting. Hang on a second.
Mhm.
I just want to put a bookmark in that. That's
Let's do it.
so different than what I usually think about with stop cough herbs. I think about Xingren. I think about oh, there's one, and the name actually just slipped right out of my mind. But I'm thinking about other kinds of descending cheese
Mhm.
sorts of herbs. And here you're talking about uetsa and ganjang.
Right.
What's going on here? How's that work?
Well, I mean, Ganjiang is acrid and Wuweizi is actually sour. I mean, they call Wuweizi the five flavors, but I mean, it's how can you have five flavors, when you taste something, right? And so if you taste Wuweizi, it is very sour. So I think that the way that works is that when you've got a cough, you typically have some there's some water accumulation in the center or in the chest, and the
Mm,
ganjiang being pungent and descending is going to help deal with that water and that mucus that's sitting in the chest. And the wuweizi is sour, and that sour basically consolidates and astringes, right? So when you've got that astringing effect on the lung qi that is rising adversely, so it's actually very clever. So you're literally pulling it down with the sour flavor, and then you're actually eliminating the actual influence that's causing the lung qi to ascend there. So I mean, it's very, very clever, right? And it's
It
not
is
just
clever. It's totally clever because when I think of trying to stop a cough, I'm trying to push it down. That's why I think of Xingyuan a lot of the times. I
right.
think of it pushing it down. But you're talking about using the sour to astringe and like from the inside pull it down. You're not pushing it down, you're pulling it down.
We're not just pushing it down. We also have to consider that we want to remove the element that's causing it to happen in the first place. Because if something is causing this like adverse flow, we can't just push it down. We need to actually remove the element that's causing that. An analogy I use with a lot of patients as well, explaining to them what we're doing and how we're doing it, and I think it applies here perfectly, is that if they were in a boat and the boat had a bunch of little holes in it and they were slowly sinking, I could either give them a bucket or I could patch up the holes. And I think that what we're doing here is patching up the holes. We want to fix the underlying problem. Otherwise, you're just going to be treading water for forever, right? So if we didn't have the ganjiang in there and we just added not even Wu Wei's. I mean, I don't even remember a lot of the TCM typical coughing herbs, Qianhu and Bai Wei and all of these other typical cough
By the way,
suppressing.
that's the one I was thinking of. By who
Right.
actually? Yeah.
We're not going to solve the problem. We're just literally going to push lung qi down and so essentially that once that wears off, the cough is just going to continuously come back. So we have to eliminate it at its source. And I mean, the Ganjiang Wu Wei is the typical modification for cough that happens in a yang conformation. In a yin conformation, so we're talking Taiyin, Shaoyin, Zuiyin, when you've got a cough, Zhang Zhongning was still using Ganjiang Wu but he also used Xixin as well. And that was also, meant to really have that warming capacity to basically help resolve any water accumulation as well. Because, when you're in a yin conformation, you've got major yang decline. When you've got major yang decline, yin will thrive, right? So when yin thrives, water accumulates. It's going to cause these problems. We need to kind of amp things up a little bit using things like Xixin.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Thanks for
Right.
that. That's a really sweet Dui combination to think about.
Absolutely. It's not mine. I mean, it's Zhang Zhongjing's, right? So, and he laid all this out for us. So, and it's important for people to really look at the postscripts and to look at the modifications that he set out. And there's a lot of formulas that have a lot of modifications, and there's so much wisdom in those modifications. So and that's just one of them.
Of course. And look, if you don't have time to read all of the Shanghan Lun, they can go read some of the stuff that you're doing. You got great things on your website.
Got a lot of material,
You've
right?
been through this. You've thought about it. And you've got a lot of great material that you've kind of metabolized for people. Like you
Right.
just go and get the essence of it. It's cool.
That's what I hope. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where were we? Oh, we were with the cough. So if the patient comes in and the fevers come down, they've still got the aversion to cold, but now there's a lot of congestion in the chest. So, there's a little bit more of a cough and they're just really feeling a lot of distension in the chest. And the standard modification there would be to remove the Tianhua Fen and add the Gualo, because I mean, the Gualo and the Tianhua Fen are essentially the same plant, right?
Hmm.
So we're not going to use both of them together. We're going to add we're going to add Gualo and Banxia. And so standard modification as well. If that phlegm is turning yellow, then we're going to also add the Huanglian. And so once we add Huanglian, Gualo, Banxia, we've got the formula Xiao Xian Xiong Tang. So there's that one. It's actually a beautiful, beautiful modification. Something I use very, very often, not just for this kind of stuff, but a brilliant, brilliant, Gualo, Banxia, Huanglian, three herb powerhouse, right? So, and that is the Xiao Xian Xiong Tang. And if there's lots of chest pain, so if the chest is really uncomfortable, then we might look to add Xiebai. And then that also gives us the formula Gualo Xiebai, Ban Xia Tang. So lots to work with. If the cough is very wet, so if the patient comes in and they're in a very clear Shaoyang state and the cough is very wet, we might just use Shai Chai Hu Tang,
Hmm.
standard, and we could add Baiju and Fuling. So it's a very, very easy modification as well. So it's just more for a wet cough there.
Yes. What about the dry cough? That dry, kind of raspy, it feels like there's something in the throat, but they can't cough it out. It's like
Well,
glue-like phlegm.
so if it's glue-like phlegm, then I mean we are going to that's still a formula like Chai Hu Gui Zhi Gan Zheng Han. And the reason why is because there's still mucus in the chest. The mucus in the chest though has become so it has become so dense, and we want to understand why it's become dense. When there's phlegm in the chest, or actually anywhere in the body, there's always going to be heat in the system. There's always going to be. You almost can't have phlegm without a little bit of heat, because it's the heat that's going to condense the yin fluids and cause them to congeal and become thicker. And at that point, we're going to want to look at we're going to want to understand the underlying pathological mechanism there as well, and the physiological mechanism there. And typically for those kind of patients, it's still going to follow a very similar protocol that we were using before. So the Shai Hu Tang plus Baiju Fuling is going to be for a very wet cough. And even the Gualo Banxia is going to be wet, but if the patient is presenting with a dry cough and they still have a lot of the symptoms that they came in with originally, I'm still going to use a Chai Hu Gueji Ganjiang Tang. And the advantage we have there is the Muli. And the Muli, being very salty, is going to help break up that deep-seated accumulation there. And then we've got the Huang Qin as well, which is a heat clearing specifically to the ministerial fire. So that's going to also help deal with the heat that could be present, that's congealing the yin fluids there, causing them to be thicker and more condensed. So we have to be careful. We have to be careful not to jump right into yin tonics or into these fluid tonics, because the body may not be able to even handle it and deal with it. And that may not even be the actual underlying mechanism there, right? So, and I can say in my personal practice, I don't see true dry fluid deficiency coughs very often. I just don't. And maybe it's because I live and practice in the Pacific Northwest, where things are wet on a good day.
It's a little
Right.
damp.
It's so damp. And also there's a lot, and this is probably also happening with the times that we're living in. There's just a lot more constitutional yang deficiency patients that I'm seeing. And so it's not very common for me to see truly a very, very fluid deficient patient that is going to need a lot more nourishment. And I mean, we see that more with children. So with children, because their yang is so abundant, they're more liable to consume their fluids a little bit more. And so, we have other protocols that we're going to use for that as well too, right? And so
Okay.
I might use like a Shaojian Tang or a Juya Shigao Tang. So there's going to be other formulas that we're going to use, or a Huangqi Jianzhong Tang. And that's more for children though. But when we're talking about adults, it's not as common for me to see that.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, cold and flu season's coming up. It's great to have kind of an arsenal of herbs to be able to deal with it. And the Jing Fang tradition is so interesting. It's so different than the Shifang. And one of the things I really appreciate and appreciate about spending this time with you today is really looking underneath the formula to see the pathomechanism. What is going on? Like you were saying, how do we figure out where the holes are in the boat, plug those
Right.
up so that the system can run better on its own? My friend, for people who want to know more about what you're doing, the books you have, the classes you have, the amazing website you've got, how do they find
Mm.
you?
There's two ways. Best, I mean, two ways are going to be either through my website directly, and that's Eran Evan, ERANEVEN.com, where I have links to all my publications. So anything I've published, I make available there. I mean, with the exception of obviously books, but any journal articles, they're all available freely there. And probably a little over around 150 translations and articles that I've published in the last I mean, gosh, it's been about 20 years now, 20 years or so, all available freely there. Signing up for my newsletter, which is also available on the website, or checking out ChineseMedicineClassics.com, which is where all my teaching and classes happen as well. I run a Jing Fang mentorship platform as well, where students come on there, and we just engage in the medicine, and people will share cases there, and we'll talk about that. There's classes that are run through the mentorship program as well. So those are probably the two best places to find me. And I mean, signing up for my newsletter, I try to be relatively active with those and send out either new translations or just let people know what's going on, or any classes that are coming
Great.
up.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, my friend, it's always great to sit down and chew the fat on Chinese medicine. Thanks
Always
for
a
stopping
pleasure.
by on Shop Talk.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. Thank you, Michael.
When you're looking for herbs, tools, and supplies to guide your patients through life's transitions, you need quality you can trust. Lhasa OMS offers an unmatched selection of acupuncture needles for every style, herbs from all your favorite manufacturers, and everything else you need to run your clinic with confidence. Visit LhasaOMS.com to source the herbs and other supplies featured in this series. Use the code FERTILE15 for 15% off your next purchase at LhasaOMS.com. Some exclusions apply. See website for details. That's it for this episode of Shop Talk. Did you learn something that brought a patient to mind? Don't keep a good thing to yourself. Share it with a friend. They'll be happy that you did. And tune in again for our next episode of Shop Talk.